Hello and welcome back to my channel. I recently went down to make an exchange for a gift I received at Christmas, down to the outlet premium stores that we have here in town to exchange a shirt that was not the right size. When my parents gave me the receipt for it, I was shocked at the great value that it was, but I was even more shocked when I arrived and found out that the shirts are on sale for even less money now than they were back before Christmas. This is not a common thing. It's not surprising given our economic state, but what is surprising during our economic state is who is doing well and who is not doing well, and the presumption that if you are doing well, that you are somehow evil. So I'm not a big fan of stimulus checks to begin with. I was against the $1,200 that President Trump gave us, and then the $600, and I am against the proposal by President Biden to bump that number up and to start handing out money. One of my biggest reasons for that is when you start handing out money and indiscriminately, you miss the point of why people need money in the first place, and then you set up this dichotomy, which is what I wanted to talk about today. So I found this article a few days ago quoting Suze Ormon, who's some sort of celebrity for some reason, delineating advice on how we should spend our stimulus checks when we get them. But they won't really help most people. Most people, if you look at the internet, have already complained that $600 isn't enough, that $2,000 isn't enough, that what we really need is to go back to work, to go back to a state in this country where we can go to a job and get paid so that we can have money. Because while there are lots of people who are making bank on unemployment, there are lots of other people who have nothing or who would like to be working because they're tired of being pent up in their houses. My best friend, for example, has been unable and unallowed to leave his apartment building because the part of New York City in which he lives was shut down so badly that they weren't allowed to leave. So he's actually moving with his girlfriend to near Rochester to get to a place where he can actually go to work. It's a huge change in his life, but I told him that this is a good idea because now I can, go and see him. My problem with people like Suze Ormon is that while they're free in their dispensation of advice on how to use the money, there's very little criticism of how the amount was decided upon and how the people will use it. They'll give advice, but they won't criticize people when it doesn't work, as it inevitably won't. They will simply go back to government and say that we should get more. And now, because I don't want to mess up what she said, I'm going to read this quote. All right, she says, quote, "They don't have the money to pay their rent. They're behind on everything. They don't know what they're going to do. Help them out and give the money to them." And she's talking about specific people who are particularly bereft. If it was a gift to you and you don't need it, you probably should have never gotten it. And that is an indemnifying statement. It is on this statement that I wish to make the rest of my commentary about Ms. Ormon's assumptions, about her criticisms, about the efforts, and about the presumptions that are made by people who believe this about handouts to those who appear to be bereft. Now, we've all been somewhere where we've seen people where we wonder if they really need the help. We've all heard the stories about people who go out and panhandle and then get into expensive cars and drive home. I remember when I was in grad school, there was a guy who begged for money down in the downtown area who was bringing in, he said, between $40,000 and $50,000 a year and lived on the street. I don't know about you, but if I was making that kind of money, there's no way I'd live there. But that's his choice, and he was doing much better than I was doing at the time, or that I've done in jobs since then. To Suze Ormon's first misconception in her argument, she presumes and assumes that those who are not completely financially bereft don't need it. There is absolutely no analysis and no effort in her paper or her report to determine how the people who have no money ended up in a place where they have no money, or to credit the people who have money for good decisions they may have made to have it. the false dichotomy that she establishes, that if you don't have money, you deserve it, and if you don't, and that you don't deserve it if you have money, ignores a lot of the path by which we got here. Now, certainly there are people who can use help, and I don't think Miss Ormond, whatever her name is the one to make that determination, because shortly between Christmas and New Year's, I noticed neighbors in my neighborhood who had large boxes set out for what I would consider to be frivolous purchases. A neighbor who works in a casino kitchen or restaurant that's not been in business now for 10 months bought an expensive gaming chair, which tells me how he's spending his time. Another neighbor bought a 74-inch flat screen TV. Now, I live in the same model house he does, and I'm not sure where he put it, because that's a pretty big TV. How people got money is never questioned, and why they lack money is never investigated. Because maybe they're going out and spending $20 a piece on a meal, and someone who has money is spending $3 a piece. Maybe they're going out to eat and someone else is eating in. Maybe they have, because I know this one guy with the gaming chair has admitted he has a satellite dish not only for American channels, but also because he's married to a Filipino woman, he has one for international channels as well. That is not a necessity, especially in our time. They only consider, when they make this delineation, how much money you have right at this moment. It punishes those who save and favors those who frit it away. Now, there are plenty of people who are caught in the middle, but not everyone falls into the categories that she has set up. She has set up a heads I win, tails you lose, and claimed that it is virtuous if by some measure you have no money. That they just presume that the money you have spent has been spent wisely and well, and that you don't, if you have some, then clearly you're evil. Her second misconception that she makes is that the greatest effort is being done to help those who deserve it the least. Her argument is that you deserve it the least if you have money. It does not ask how you got the money. Maybe you have a job. Maybe you're going to work. Maybe you were able to get a side hustle, not because you were trying to hurt yourself and not deserve stimulus money, but because you decided not to wait and see how much the government was going to graciously hand out. How do you properly ascertain who, quote unquote, deserves money? It would cost more money to vet people and find out if they deserve it than to just hand out checks to everyone. Because I know this because in my religion, we have our own church welfare program where individuals go to a house and determine what the actual need is. And if these individuals who go to the house were paid, then there would be some kind of an hourly outlay in terms of wages in order to determine their actual need. Since our clergy is lay and isn't paid, there's no cost to the organization to make that determination. But if the government were to have to then go look at your life, pay you a visit, look in your pantry, check your finances, check your budget, check your income, check your savings, by the time we've paid a government officer to do that investigation, assuming that it was legal and that you supported it and were honest, we would have already spent the money that we gave you as a check. So rather than waste it in finding out, we just hand everyone a check, rich or poor. And it seems like it's the poor who are pissed off that the rich got money. Well, there's a good reason why it's just easier. Having no money or claiming that you have none is not the same as justifiably arriving at a place where you have none. Having no money or claiming you have none is not the same as being fiscally mature. Just because I have money doesn't mean that I could not use it or that I do not deserve it. You have not considered how that money came to be. The other problem with determining who is worthy and deserves of the money is that we forget that the rich in America are better off than most people in other countries, even they're rich, and that poor people in America have things that the rich of yesteryear could have only dreamed of. We have TVs, cell phones, internet. I mean, we're all on the freaking internet all the time. We have constant entertainment. We have cars. We have transportation. We can fly in an airplane if we're willing to take the precautions and get on one. These are things that the kings of France, Spain, Arabia, Persia, and the leaders of other nations could have only dreamed of. These are luxuries. These are not entitlements. And so who are we to say that any of us deserve a damn thing? The third misconception Miss Ormond, or whatever her name is, makes, Ormon, just see it up there, Orman, makes in her analysis is that this somehow is going to foment, not going to foment discord among the citizenry. Democrat politicians are always claiming that they want to establish a circumstance where everything is equal. The stimulus checks, although they were a stupid idea in my opinion, were all distributed equally. Everyone who had a social security number got one. Even if you hadn't filed taxes or paid taxes, and some foreign nationals got them too. If that's not equal, I don't know what is. They gave money to everyone. They even gave money to kids, okay? And I don't know what the number is because I don't have any, but it was $600 per adult plus a certain amount to the kids. And I think the kids got the same amount. That's pretty damn equal, okay? Every living person got $600, regardless of their need, regardless of their circumstances. And now liberal elites like Ormon are claiming that somehow it's not fair. It's not equal. Well, what do you want? What could be more than fair? Now, granted, there were some high earners who got nothing. And I know there was a place at which, based on your adjusted gross income, then the amount you got went down. So it wasn't like, and it actually isn't fair or equal. There were people who actually got nothing. And I don't know how many there were, but those people, there are people who make $200,000 a year and don't have a pot in which to piss. Are you saying that a person who makes $200,000 a year but hasn't managed to save a nickel deserves money, and I, who make far less than that but have money put away, don't deserve it? What the hell is that? The stimulus program, as rolled out, was designed to give money to the highest number of people possible, to put money in everyone's pocket, because we have no idea how they're using it, because if they use it, no matter where they put it, it gets put into use somewhere, somehow, to make money, unless they just put it under the mattress or in a cigar box or something. That's the only way where it would have no additional benefit. The notion that to each according to his need and from each according to his ability makes a lot of assumptions. And we know what happens when you assume. And Suze Ormon has done a whole lot of assuming. But personally, I think that the notion of giving a stimulus check was a total canard. Politicians decided that they needed to do some sort of mea culpa in order to satiate people and make them think that they were doing something to correct the actions done that had destroyed their lives, their livelihoods, and their plans. It was given by politicians who did nothing to hurt the people who received the checks. Remember, whether you like Trump or not, for all of his flaws, he didn't shut the businesses, discourage travel, or tell people to mask up and isolate. In fact, he did the complete opposite. And it was governors who are now bellyaching about not getting enough money who were the ones who trashed your life. Okay? The president, he has many flaws, and I'm sure Joe Biden has plenty too, decided that action was needed. I don't agree with that. Well, I don't agree with what action was taken, but that was something that he could do. He cannot force governors to open their states. As I said before, if you lived even a century earlier, you would realize that we are richer and more prosperous, even when we're poor, than the societies of 100 years ago. Many people in the 1920s, 1930s were only a week or two away from the gutter. And wealthy people ended up in soup lines right beneath the train tracks with everyone else at times. There were no pensions or salary guarantees. There was no EEOC, no ADA, no right-to-work laws. You got paid when you worked. If you don't believe me, go watch whether you like the notion of Christmas or not, any of the Ebenezer Scrooge Christmas Tales Dickens stories, and you can see at the beginning of the movie, or if you want to read the book, all of the people who are begging Scrooge for an extension on their loan because they are living hand to mouth. They barely make enough to make ends meet. They've borrowed money from him at confiscatory rates because if they don't, they end up in the gutter and they know that they are dead within a week or a month. That is the reality of most people's lives in all time. And the jobs they did have frequently were unpleasant and poorly paid, the conditions in squalor and cramped. We know the stories, we've seen the pictures, we know our ancestors, and then we go out and have the audacity and the arrogance to pretend that somehow we're deprived and that we need to have the government give us a $600 or $1,400 or $2,000 or $20,000 check. In reality, our lives are super easy with barely an inconvenience. That's the truth. Was 2020 fun? Absolutely not. Was it the worst year ever? Absolutely not. But if politicians say that 2020 wasn't that bad, they know they're not going to get elected. That if they hand out money and rant and rail, they think they can use that to increase their power. Rest assured, the stimulus checks have nothing to do with helping people. And Suze Ormon's advice had nothing to do with helping you spend it wisely. It was an excuse and an opportunity for her to say, it's not fair when it's fair. And the politicians who say they're doing this to help people only mean helping people if you mean specific people, in particular, the politicians. They are always their favorite constituents. If you have been hurt by this pandemic, I feel for you. Find somebody who's not doing poorly and see what they can do to help. If you are in a position to help, find a neighbor and see what you can do. I have met more of my neighbors as a consequence of this than ever before. And even the construction group that the bank sends over periodically to work on stuff in the vacant house next door, are grateful for a little bit of conversation and company when they're here. I think everyone is eager for a little bit of humanity. This is not it. Checks are impersonal. And Suze Ormon is an ultracrepidarian. And you can mark my words. Don't be like that. Make 2021 a year where you realize that you can rise above this and where what we deserve is actually really little and what we have is a great deal more than we think. We are blessed more than ever before in this time. You can hear my voice and know what I think on an internet platform, no matter where you live. Think about that for a moment and count your blessings. Godspeed and take care of yourselves. And make this the best year you possibly can, no matter what comes from the government.